The UFC has been operating for almost 30 years. In that period, there have consistently been new stars, up-and-coming fighters, and martial arts prodigies. Some of them make a name for themselves, and some don't. However, we can say that without a doubt, Khamzat Chimaev has proven himself to be one of the best fighters around. In this video, we're going to list down 10 things every UFC fan should know about Khamzat Chimaev. First up, born into war. Life can be a struggle for anyone, regardless of wherever they are born. There are a lot of harsh environments on this planet, but when we say that Khamzat was born into a world of conflict, we mean it. The 28-year-old was born in Chechen, Russia, an area with a turbulent past due to its geographical position. Like many other countries in the region, Chechnya was part of the Soviet Union until it declared themselves an independent state in 1991. The region, unfortunately, fell into civil war. The First Chechen War took place from 1994 to 1996, when Russian forces attempted to regain control over Chechnya, and it is during this period that Khamzat Chimaev was born directly into a war zone. The war affected him throughout his childhood. The crime, poverty, and chaos that Chimaev faced during those years are a large contributor to the tough mentality he has right now. Next up, Khamzat's upbringing. At just 2 years old, Khamzat fell down a set of concrete stairs, leaving him injured with a broken nose and smashed face. You can still see a scar on Khamzat's face from the deviated septum that he got as a result of the fall. This also means he can only breathe out one of his nostrils. Being from a small village in the Caucasus Mountain region, wrestling was a big part of his life growing up. He even grew up opposite a wrestling gym and began training when he was just 5 years old. Khamzat has often said he feels like he's been fighting his whole life, in the cage and out of it. Nevertheless, Chimaev is still a pretty emotional guy. He finds it difficult to control his emotions when fighting, and even said that if it wasn't for his brother keeping him grounded, he would have probably ended up in jail. Following up, starting anew in Sweden. Khamzat trained hoping he could use his skills to escape the poverty around him and make a better life for himself and his family. He was using wrestling as a means to escape and went on to win a bronze medal in the Russian Junior Championship, which is incredibly impressive considering what he was going through in his personal life. In 2013, Khamzat and his family migrated to Sweden hoping to seek asylum. His older brother, who was a wrestler as well, had moved there before him. Even though they had escaped the toxic environment in Chechnya, their struggles were far from over. Khamzat and his family lived in a small studio apartment in Sweden. He picked up a job at the local poultry factory to help his family make ends meet. Chimaev continued his training in multiple gyms nearby and finally started making a name for himself in the Swedish wrestling scene. He competed in the Swedish National Championship in 2015 and 2016, winning gold in both years, and completed the tournaments with a 19-0 winning streak. Coming up, discovering MMA. Even though Khamzat was winning tournament after tournament, he was still unable to land a deal with a big organization due to his citizenship status in Sweden. One day, while on break at his job at the poultry factory, the fighter saw a video of Conor McGregor and Jose Aldo's fight at UFC 194. He had zero exposure to the amazing world of MMA fighting before seeing the two stars in action, and it got him thinking, if they can do it, why can't he? Khamzat was a fighter to his core, and he knew he could beat anyone, and this is where his obsession with the sport began. He attended a few MMA matches and even took up training at the AllStars gym in Stockholm. He made his amateur debut in 2017 at Fight Club Rush 1, where he won his first MMA fight. He continued fighting in amateur tournaments till 2018, when he proved that his striking ability, speed, and reflexes were on a different level. And up next, trouble with the law. While living in the town of Kalmar in 2017, Khamzat got into trouble with the police. He and a friend were visiting a department store when they were accused of stealing a pair of headphones. The fighter's friend was restrained by an employee while attempting to leave the store, and Khamzat rushed to his defense. He knocked down the employee with a punch to the face, claiming it was self-defense, but the local court thought differently. Chimaev was charged with assault and sentenced to 50 hours of community service, along with a fine of 600 krona. Let's look at how MMA saved Chimaev's life. Once Khamzat had set his eyes on becoming an MMA star, he worked night and day to achieve his goal. He moved to Stockholm to join the AllStars gym, the training center famous for producing some of the best fighters in the world. Khamzat moved into a room at the gym so he could focus on his training and has only moved upwards since then. He grew close to another UFC fighter named Reza Madadi during this time, and the two of them are still acquaintances to this day. Madadi has been in his corner since day one and takes care of Khamzat like a brother. MMA gave Chimaev the outlet he was looking for his entire life while dreaming of buying a house for his family and providing for them. Let's learn more about his fight against his inspiration, McGregor. At the beginning of Khamzat's professional career, Conor McGregor and Khabib Nurmagomedov's rivalry was at an all-time high. McGregor had made a lot of controversial statements about Khabib's religion and history. When the Chechen heard about these comments, he was determined to put McGregor in his place. Even though he was only 1-0 in his professional career, Khamzat was ready ready to fight McGregor, hoping to get revenge for everything said against his country. He flew to Ireland to find McGregor and make him pay, but was stopped by authorities before he could even get out of the airport. Khamzat was detained at the police station for 8 hours, and due to his poor English speaking skills, he couldn't fully understand what was going on. Chimaev was eventually driven back to the airport and deported back to Sweden. Coming up, his lucky break. After his first professional MMA win, Khamzat changed his last name from Garikanov to Chimaev, which means Viking in Russian. The fighter credited his successful wrestling and mixed martial arts career to his tough upbringing, saying not a lot of Swedes have seen the type of hardships he has seen. Before joining UFC, though, Khamzat first decided to head to Brave CF, where he completely annihilated all his competition. In 2020, he was scheduled to fight for the Brave CF welterweight title in Sweden, the first tournament there organized just for him. Unfortunately, the pandemic happened, and the event was canceled altogether. What he did not know at the time was that this was a blessing in disguise and opened the door for his UFC debut. Khamzat scored a fight against John Phillips after his original opponent dropped out, and we finally got to see him in action. He made the best of his opportunity and dominated Phillips until he eventually admitted defeat and tapped out, a brutal show of just how good he is in the cage. Now, for struggling against COVID and thoughts about retiring, Khamzat's UFC performances were breaking records left and right, including knocking out the man with the most subs in the division in just 17 seconds. UFC actually ended up booking him in a high-profile match against Leon Edwards for December 2020, but just when it seemed like everything was set for the big match, he caught COVID. At first contracting it in December, Chimaev was adamant about continuing to train, but his body just couldn't keep up. He was in and out of hospitals for weeks with severe chest pains and a high fever. The fight, of course, had to be rescheduled for January of 2021. Khamzat had hoped he would be able to recover in time for the match, but unfortunately, that was not the case, and he withdrew for a second time. His physical and mental health had deteriorated to the point where he thought he would never be able to fight again. Thankfully, with time, Chimaev got better and started training again. Lastly, giving back to the community. Khamzat has always been a family man. Not only does he want to give his family a comfortable life, but he also wants to help those in need. In his recent vlog series, the fighter can be seen going out into the streets of Sweden and helping the homeless. He acknowledges that after being nearly homeless himself, he hopes to do all that he can to make sure no one else struggles the way he did. That's a wrap for this video. What do you think about Khamzat's journey so far? Let us know in the comments below. Make sure to give this video a thumbs up and subscribe to our channel for more videos like this. See you in the next one.